It's my duty and responsibility to present to you our DuPage County budget. So today, I present for your consideration the balanced 2020 budget proposal for DuPage County government. This document is the direct result of what has been a collaborative, deliberative process. As part of our budget planning, meetings began over the summer and continued right up until this morning. Special thanks to Finance Chairman Bob Larson and Vice Chair Jim Zay, along with the county-wide elected officials and department heads who have worked with us developing information to support this effort. Chief Financial Officer Paul Rafek and Finance Department staff deserve our thanks for their experience and dedication to this difficult process. This year, we received budget requests from departments and countywide elected officials totaling $22 million in new spending, more than our estimated revenues would support. We realize these requests are important and justified, but part of the budgeting process we all go through, whether at home or at work, is determining areas of highest need that will provide the largest positive impact. To that end, my budget proposal dedicates resources to make one-time, significant investments in systems and technology that will ensure better delivery of county services. For example, one of our elected officials took office in December knowing the single most important computer system needed for her to carry out her duties was nearly obsolete. Treasurer Gwen Henry collects property taxes on more than 336,000 parcels of property and sends out the tax bills to 378 taxing bodies. However, our real estate tax system is over 40 years old. Treasurer Henry and our IT staff have been able to keep this system in good working order. She's been a wonderful partner. Together, we created a long-term plan for replacement, which will occur in the next fiscal year, with funds we have planned and earmarked for this purpose. I want to thank Treasurer Henry. Over the years, she's talked to me many times about her desire to help us strike a careful balance between the importance of system replacement and her desire not to place undue burdens on the county budget or the taxpayers. She has derived incredible value from a 40-year-old system for more than a decade, and she has always put the needs of the taxpayers first. Her careful stewardship of her office and our tax dollars is to be commended. That's a duty we all share. I've said countless times that our focus is on squeezing value from each tax dollar we receive and really scrutinizing new spending, planning for it, supplementing with grants, spreading out costs, basically doing anything we can to reduce the burden on the taxpayers. Our new DuPage County Sheriff has demonstrated this determination in his short but transformative time in office. He maximizes his resources, finding and utilizing grants for programs that benefit non-violent offenders at the DuPage County Jail. His staff, along with the Health Department and JUST of DuPage, are providing opportunities for true rehabilitation for those nonviolent offenders eligible for counseling and job training. Sheriff Mendrick and DuPage's WorkNet division have leveraged federal job training funds to help young inmates learn welding skills and become trained in janitorial work. These programs provide great benefit without further burdening taxpayers because the sheriff is determined to find community support before he seeks additional county dollars. He then uses the money he does receive for vital services that address his core mission, which is fighting crime. This was demonstrated earlier this month when Oak Brook Police investigated a sexual assault at a local hotel. While the armed suspect eluded police, he was later picked up in Chicago and questioned. Police obtained a DNA sample. If that sample had gone to the Illinois State Crime Lab, it might have taken 9 to 12 months for officers to find out if it provided vital evidence for the assault case. However, the DuPage Sheriff's Crime Lab turned the sample around in about 36 hours, allowing the state's attorney to bring charges. Today, that suspect remains in the DuPage County Jail, charged with felony criminal sexual assault and kidnapping. Our community is safer because the sheriff prioritized crime lab services and provides those services so that charges can be brought or dismissed, moving cases through the system more efficiently. The FY2020 budget proposal before you today provides continued essential funding for the crime lab and for additional deputies the sheriff will deploy to areas vulnerable to emerging crime activity. And there's one more area the sheriff has asked this board to address: the complex and high incidence of substance abuse addiction and co-occurring health and mental needs of inmates in the jail. This budget proposal funds 2 nurses to coordinate the medication-assisted treatment, or Vivitrol, program that will soon begin at the jail, providing safe, supervised treatment to those suffering from mental health disorders or from drug addiction. The number of people who are mentally ill, addicted to drugs or alcohol, and suffering from co-occurring illnesses is skyrocketing in jail populations all over the United States. The sheriff must staff appropriately to keep inmates, deputies, and workers safe in the DuPage County Jail. I'd like to thank the sheriff for working cooperatively with me throughout this budget process. While we will fund only his highest priorities this year, we are working together to phase in initiatives as we can locate federal, state, or community sources to finance them. Improvements in our real estate system and public safety are linked directly to the daily work and core mission of our county government. Another core mission is the efficient and effective delivery of voter services. As we seek to make improvements here, it's important that together we acknowledge the integrity of election results in DuPage County has never been in question. Every vote has always been counted. And we have been on a steady path of improvement in managing election services from the time I took office. Since 2010, reforms under the DuPage Election Commission, including shared services, adoption of county procurement, HR, and ethics policies, have saved taxpayers more than $3 million and greatly improved accountability and transparency. However, we believed, and the voters agreed, that election services would best be managed by the county clerk's office. As the Election Commission leadership and clerk researched the potential benefits of consolidation, a 2017 study pointed to further expected savings of some $300,000 upon the merger of the Election Commission with the county clerk's office. Under the authority granted by the General Assembly, the county board voted to merge the Election Commission with the clerk's office earlier this year. And the April 2019 municipal election were successfully completed. As is appropriate, the county clerk continues this path of improvement, seeking investments in technology serving DuPage County voters. Just last month, the clerk came before this body seeking assurance that the county would support the purchase of new poll books for the upcoming primary and general elections. We will provide the support she requested. In fact, because of the timing of the primary and the need to purchase and deploy this improved system, we will meet Clerk Kazmarik's request and deliver the funds for the poll book purchase before the end of this calendar year in 2019. We believe this is a necessary investment, assuring a more efficient experience at the polls for all of our voters. My 2020 proposal also sets forth an increase in the clerk's budget to conduct the presidential election, including more money for election judges. We propose working closely with Clerk Kazmarik and her election staff to help them determine a prioritized schedule for funding further projects. I am devoting county resources to provide better, more efficient service for voters. It is indeed a compelling need. I have also pursued this issue when I speak with our U.S. senators and representatives. I invite the clerk to join me in pursuit of federal funds that we can devote to improving election services here in DuPage County. In addition to the investments I have already detailed, this budget proposal provides continuing support for two vital community partnerships that directly address strategic county goals. I propose funding the Heroin, Opioid Prevention, and Education Task Force at $100,000 in fiscal year 2020. Last year, the task force provided seed money for what became the first offender call Unified for Success, or FOCUS, program implemented by the 18th Judicial Circuit. Chief Judge Dan Guerin received an Achievement Award from the National Association of Counties for his innovative approach, providing treatment, support, and counseling instead of jail time for first-time drug offenders. I salute Judge Guerin and HOPE Task Force co-chairs Greg Hart and Dr. Lanny Wilson for their stewardship of the money requested to start up this program. Judge Guerin is not requesting further funding for FOCUS. He's finding dollars within his own budget to continue this worthwhile program, serving hundreds of people dedicated to getting their lives back on track. This effort and the HOPE Task Force allocation provides just a small portion of the $2.3 million DuPage County has committed to reduce substance use disorder among our residents. We know the community values investments we make to reduce the impact of drug use in our county. Our residents also value the social service safety net we have established through the Human Service Grant Fund. These annual allocations put dollars into programs where they are most needed, helping individuals achieve independence, ensuring the protection of children and other vulnerable residents, and maximizing opportunities to strengthen DuPage families' well-being and stability. Last year, because of severe cuts to our funding from the state, we were forced to pare back this effort. Because of the deep need and the impact these funds have throughout the community, my 2020 budget proposal restores our social safety net, DuPage Human Service Grant Fund, to $1 million, reflecting the high priority the community places on it. However, mindful of the competing budget pressures every year, I propose that we examine long-term strategies to partner with the private sector and nonprofit organizations to grow and expand this fund and to ultimately reduce the burden on taxpayers and our county budget. As we examine opportunities to further reduce the budget on taxpayers, I've instructed the Finance Department to include in the FY2020 budget funding for a study to examine whether savings could be realized by merging the DuPage County Recorder's Office with the County Clerk's Office. And let me emphasize that our experience is it is only wise to go forward with consolidation if there are significant benefits to taxpayers, and most importantly, if savings can be realized. Before we engage the voters on this question, I think it's essential to develop information on their behalf and to lay out a clear choice. As I mentioned previously, the DuPage Election Commission and Clerk's Office merged earlier this year. A study commissioned 2 years ago pointed to a projected $300,000 in savings in addition to efficiencies achieved through cross-training of staff. As this has yet to materialize, it makes sense to approach further consolidation of important county functions with clear expectations. I have proposed a budget for FY2020 that allows the county to meet its obligations with the revenues we can predict today. While the Illinois legislature acted to increase several sources of funding that may eventually create additional revenues for our general fund, we do not have solid estimates for FY2020, and at this time we cannot predict what those revenues will be with certainty. I'm talking about potential increases from internet sales tax, a potential portion of tax revenue from retail sales of adult cannabis, and an increased Medicaid funding formula that may favorably impact our DuPage Care Center. We don't know yet if, how, or when these new revenue streams will impact our county in any meaningful way. Therefore, the prudent, fiscally conservative path ahead, despite the significant pressures we are under to fund new projects and invest in technology, is to plan to phase in these projects over time, to count on only revenue sources we are certain will materialize. Therefore, each department, each countywide office will be asked to control and reduce expenses wherever possible. Our largest cost, year after year, is personnel and benefits. For the past 3 years, despite skyrocketing medical costs in the region, we've managed to keep our employee health care costs flat. Well, unfortunately, this year, we've been hit with an increase of 10.7%. We will make minor adjustments in the design of our plans, implementing a deductible on some of the HMO services while maintaining our commitment to an 80-20 cost share with our employees. You also heard from the Executive Director of the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund earlier this year. He explained that all the fund members must increase their share of the annual yearly employer contribution toward retirement fund costs as a result of IMRF's decrease in the internal rate of return. This adds up to a $4 million increase that our FY2020 budget must absorb. Despite pressures like these, I believe it's more important than ever that we invest in our employees. My budget proposal includes a modest cost of living increase for employees at 2%. But to relieve pressure on the general fund, I will ask countywide elected officials and department heads to fund half of this COLA from within their own budget, as well as manage their hiring in a way that reduces the burden on taxpayers. How will we pay for these proposals? The plan I've outlined is driven by the desire to improve public safety, to maintain our social safety net, and to answer the clerk's requests for improvements in election equipment and service. As a county, we are highly dependent on sales tax revenue. During this extended period of economic recovery, our sales tax revenue has been healthy, but we now see reductions in this revenue line. To ensure adequate, sustainable funding for our community's needs moving forward, in fiscal year 2020, I propose a minor adjustment to our property tax levy, covering the rate of inflation and accounting for new growth within the county. This is a departure from the past, but it is the responsible action to take currently to fund the clerk's request, our public safety and social service needs. 55% of our general fund, which accounts for public safety, community services, our judicial system, the care center support, and county infrastructure, is comprised of sales tax revenue, which can fluctuate according to economic trends. As we plan for needed investments, we must responsibly create sustainable funding strategy. Therefore, this year, I propose the property tax levy move incrementally from $66.9 million to $68.8 million, a difference of less than $2 million. To the average owner of a $250,000 house, this signifies a change of less than $4 yearly. And I offer this reminder: DuPage County government represents less than 3% of the taxpayer's property tax bill. Unlike other local taxing bodies, we have fulfilled our promise to hold the line on property taxes since the property tax extension limitation law went into effect in 1991. The cumulative savings to DuPage County taxpayers has been $1.8 billion. Over the years, if our county board had chosen to levy to the max under PTEL, our levy today would be around $182 million. Instead, this year's levy is a little more than a third of that amount at $68.8 million. Despite this minor adjustment for inflation and new growth, our dedication to our fiscally responsible best practices remains. Therefore, this year's budget is $476 million, $476 million. Our general fund, which is the source that funds most of the countywide elected officials, and our department's budgets will move from $179.6 million last year to $183.9 million in FY2020. In addition to taking necessary steps to reduce costs and balance our budget here in the county, we have aggressively sought a return on the tax dollars we send down to Springfield. DuPage taxpayers generally contribute more to the state coffers than we receive. However, this year, thanks to our efforts in Springfield, we were able to ensure we would receive our fair share of statewide motor fuel tax revenue that will create a sustainable funding source to maintain our transportation and infrastructure systems. Capturing these new state dollars will allow us to complete construction projects and maintain our roads, bridges, highways, and other infrastructure in a state of good repair without putting further pressure on our county budget. I've proposed a plan for the year ahead that takes a comprehensive approach to meeting our community needs. It is balanced, conservative program making necessary investments that ensure the highest level of service possible for our citizens, and it answers well-publicized requests for new expenditures as responsibly as possible. As I turn this plan over to the board for your review, please consider the opportunity now before you. You may exhibit leadership. You may find common ground and work together to implement programs our residents value. That's your choice. I've outlined a vision that allows DuPage County to remain a model county, one of the best run in the state, and I look forward to working on behalf of our taxpayers following a path of continuous improvement. I hope you'll join me. Thank you.